So that was just pure domination by the Packers tonight. Beating the Saints 34-0. The Packers have officially clinched the playoffs. They now have 2 games remaining. 1 game against the Vikings next week, which I think the Packers are going to win. And then 1 game to end it off against the Bears. And so tonight going into it, with Derek Carr not playing, with all the injuries on the Saints offense, I expected the Packers to win this game somewhat handedly. And they just dominated in every phase of the game. They shut down the Saints offense. They couldn't really do anything all day long. Couldn't pass the ball. Couldn't run the ball. The Packers were getting consistent pressure on defense. The Packers offense was dominating from the start of the game. 3 straight touchdown drives in that game, putting up 34 in this one, which now extends the Packers' streak of 30-plus games to now 5 games. I was worried there at the end the Packers may not keep the streak alive when Malik Willis came in, but Matt LaFleur was being aggressive. I think it was 4th and 2. Willis throws a beautiful pass. I think it was to Jaden Reed. And then the Packers ran it in. They kept the 30-plus point streak alive, which is obviously very important for the Packers this year, of the utmost importance. But this is just a game that you wanted to see this kind of performance from the Packers because this Saints team, they've lost so many players on offense. Chris Olave, Raheed Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr. All their best players were pretty much out on the offensive side of the ball. And that sort of showed up tonight. The Packers were without Jair Alexander, who hopefully comes back soon. Evan Williams, great rookie safety. Also without Javon Bullard as well. And I think we saw a lot of different guys step up. Zane Anderson filling in at safety got an interception. We also saw Edgerrin Cooper continue to make a lot of really, really good plays. And for the Packers, this is a game where it's awesome to see. It's awesome to beat a team that's not playing great. It's awesome to see this kind of domination. But of course, the real test is going to be playoff time. And I think that next week against the Vikings, that's going to be a game where we really get to see what the Packers are made of. And it could, it's against a Vikings team that is 13-2. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. The last time, Jordan Love almost beat the Vikings, hobbling around on 1 leg. Now he has 2 legs. I do think the Packers, with a healthy Jordan Love, are going to beat the Vikings next week. I just think they are going to go into Minnesota and beat them the second time around. But now when you look at this team, when you look at the way the Packers have performed, it really feels like things are really starting to move in the right direction for this team in all aspects of the team. You got to bring up Brandon McManus, who tonight had a 55-yarder, also a 46-yarder, and I think he's only missed 1 field goal so far this season. So that has been a huge add for the Packers, and I feel confident going into the playoffs with a guy who can actually, make kicks consistently. When it was Anders Carlson last year, that was not the case. Every time he kicked, you're a little bit nervous just because of how inconsistent he was. And I do think his performance in that playoff game last year against the 49ers did cost the Packers. It could have been a different outcome in that one. And now the Packers seem to have a very reliable kicker in Brandon McManus. And on that 55-yarder, I think it would have been good from 60 to 65 yards potentially. So it feels good to have the special teams set up in that way where you have a guy that you can trust at kicker. And when we look at this game, the Packers converted in the red zone 4 times, 4 for 4 in this game. And that's been one of the best changes in the past month, 5 to 6 weeks, has been the improvement of this Packers red zone offense, which had been one of the worst in the league, is taking a complete turnaround. They have been very consistent in the past month when it comes to their red zone offense. And one other great thing about this Packers offense is they have so many talented receivers, so many talented weapons, so many talented running backs that, when you look at Jordan Love in this game, he only had 16 completions in this one, and it went to 7 different players, and no Packers receiver had over 4 receptions. We had Josh Jacobs led with 4 receptions. In receptions. Jaden Reed had 3 receptions for 76 yards, which was the most yards of the team. Tucker Kraft, 3 receptions. Dobbs, 2 receptions. Wicks, 3 receptions, a touchdown. Emmanuel Wilson, a reception. Chris Brooks, a reception. And so when you have that much talent, defenses, they don't know where the ball is going. When the Packers used to have Aaron Rodgers for a time, later in his career when there are other weapons still there, not the quality of Adams. Defenses knew, okay, if we can shut down Adams, we can really hold this Packers offense back. Sure, the Packers could still find a way, from time to time. But Adams was majority of the offense at times. I think that can hurt you when you only have one guy that you can truly rely on. And I think this Packers offense, I mean, they have so many guys who can beat you. Reed, Kraft, Josh Jacobs, I mean, sort of take your pick. And one thing to watch for is Christian Watson did go down with a knee injury. That's something to watch. He's been very healthy so far this season. After, doing some different things in the offseason to try to figure out what was causing his injuries in the past couple of seasons. And now we need to keep an eye on that. Hopefully he's okay. He's definitely a crucial piece of this offense. Even though the Packers have a ton of weapons, they don't have another guy who is like Christian Watson because there aren't many NFL players, receivers who are built like Christian Watson, 6'4", 200 plus pounds, 4.36 or 3.7 40. There's not many players who athletically are gifted like Watson. So that would hurt to lose him, that sort of field stretcher, the guy who can, beat teams deep and teams really have to focus on. Hopefully it's a minor injury. We'll keep an eye on that one going forward. Also, Josh Jacobs did go down with an injury. I'm not sure how he's doing right now. That's something to watch as well. The positive sign is when Josh Jacobs went down, the Packers were still able to consistently run the ball. We had Chris Brooks, 6 carries for 23 rushing yards and a touchdown. He had that one play where he just bulldozed over a guy, and I was looking at, he was crazy. He bulldozed a guy. He's a really good back, especially in short yardage situations. Emmanuel Wilson, 11 carries, 52 yards, 4.7 yards a carry. So even with Josh Jacobs going down, only finishing with 13 carries, the rest of the Packers running backs played really well. We also had a lot of receivers getting some touches, running the ball. Christian Watson, 2 rushes, 23 yards. Bo Melton, 1 rush, 14 yards. Jaden Reed, 1 rush for 5 yards. Tucker Kraft, 1 rush for 2 yards in that QB sneak. And then Malik Willis also had a couple runs as well. And so the Packers finished 188 rushing yards, 4.8 yards a carry, 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 for each of those running backs. And so it is good to see the depth the Packers have at running back, and that's even without rookie running back Marshawn Lloyd coming back from the injuries that he has dealt with this season. So even with injuries, the Packers seem to have a lot of depth, and we saw tonight Malik Willis for the first time in a while because the Packers were up by so much, and he threw a beautiful pass there on that 4th down. He's an insanely good quarterback. I tweeted during the game that I think he's better than Caleb Williams. I actually do. But Malik looks really, really great. And so it's awesome to, have a guy like that that if you ever needed him, he can come in and still operate the Packers offense at a very high level. It's what he did in the first couple weeks of the season. And when we look at the Packers pass rush, it did feel like they were a lot more active today, getting pressure a lot than a majority of the season. Last week, it was a really strong performance with about 7 or so sacks last week. If we look at the totals for today's game, 3 total sacks, 1 by Wyatt, 1 by Keyshawn Nixon, and 1 by Brenton Cox Jr. But Spencer Rattler was having to run around out there a lot. He is a really talented player athletically. He can run around. I still think he's really young, and he still has a ways to go in the NFL. And as I said, he doesn't have a ton of weapons right now because of all their injuries, but it was a good day by the Packers pass rush, getting consistent pressure, forcing him out of the pocket. And the Saints finished 67 rush yards, 3.4 yards a carry. So the Packers running defense, once again, playing great. Rattler finished with only 153 yards, 15 of 30, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was by Zane Anderson. And so a Packers defense without 60% of their starting secondary locked down the Saints offense. And as I said, this isn't a great offense. I think they should have done that, but it's good to see them do it. Edgerrin Cooper led the team with 10 tackles, 10 total tackles. Eric Wilson next with 9. And Edgerrin Cooper, after last week, that was an insane performance. I think he followed it up with another very solid performance. He's just always making some huge plays. He's explosive. He's aggressive. He's the kind of guy that is going to be a disruptor for this Packers defense for a very long time. Going through his rookie contract, he's still in his first year. The Packers are going to pay him big money in 3 or 4 years. There's no doubt about that. I think he's going to be one of the best linebackers in the NFL for a long time. He just has speed, aggressiveness, power that a lot of guys don't. And so it's good to see him back healthy and playing at a really, top-tier level. Kenny Clark made some plays there, Rashawn Gary. And so this is a really good performance for the Packers team. And now, next week against the Vikings, they have a big test. I think the Packers will pull it out. I think it'll be a close game, but it should be a fun one. So it's nice here to be sitting at 11-4, making the playoffs once again. 2 straight years with Jordan Love, 2 straight playoffs. The Packers made the right decision, paying him $55 million a year. And it's sort of nice in games like this where, Love doesn't have to carry the team because of how good their rushing attack is, because of how good Josh Jacobs is, the other running backs. It really is nice to be able to have the running game be the foundation the past few weeks, because it makes it tough when defenses know they have to shut down the run, and then when they get too focused on trying to stop Josh Jacobs, you got a play action pass from Love. He consistently puts the ball where it needs to be. Another game with no picks. There was almost one there, almost got tipped. Luckily, the Saints guy ran into the other Saints guy, and they dropped it. So 182 yards from Love, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. But it's great to have a foundational running game and then have Love, sort of do what he does best, convert on third down a ton of times, escape sacks. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And the other thing is when there are close games, when you are down, Jordan Love can put the team on his back when he needs to, but it's nice to have someone else who can sort of carry the load and sort of be that, other strength on the offense. And I think of the Ravens, where they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. It's sort of similar that when you have a top-tier running game, it just makes it so much easier on the quarterback. He doesn't have to do everything, and that's, I think, what we saw in this game as well. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to say to my friend Edgar, it was great meeting you today. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And if you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.